panel. Mark. All right. Well, my name. Okay. All right, we're here at Planet 13 in Las Vegas. This is a panel on cannabis tourism. I also want to shout out to Beard Bros Travel, Beard Bros Media, who's part of this event. I'd like to welcome Chris and Bryant. Fellas, can we do a quick intro for context?
Yeah, thanks for having us. My name's Chris Wren, Vice President of Operations of Planet 13 Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
My name is Bryant Eisen. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Planet 13.
Excellent. Well, Planet 13 is known in the cannabis community as basically also an attraction. You guys have had a really interesting model from day one and have been able to carve a certain path in tourism. We're going to get into that today. Chris, you've been part of it since early on. When they were creating the brand Planet 13, there's an origin story behind the brand, would love some context. And what were some of the foundational conversations that led to this direction?
Yeah, there's quite a story behind the whole Planet 13 concept, the name, and this thing that we've built here. We started off in a medical market. Las Vegas was a medical cannabis market. We had a small grow called Medicine, where we were serving the local community here. And then about 2013, they passed the regulations that were going to allow the superstores and the recreational cannabis and open it up. So Bob and Larry and myself, we decided that we need to step this up. Right? We're in Vegas. We need to do it Vegas style. Right. We need to take this to the next level. We have an opportunity here that a lot of other folks don't, because we are in a tourist destination where a lot of people come visit every year and impressions are made, right? That you have some of the best restaurants here, some of the best shopping here. Right. And so that concept, that idea of being the biggest, being the best, and being able to present cannabis and cannabis dispensation in a different way, in a Vegas way, was really the precipice for the whole Planet 13 superstore concept. And I will say originally, it was Larry and Bob were much more, in favor of it. I'm like, look, guys, I'm a grower. Let's just get a big old grow. Let's get some vending machines. We'll be okay. And luckily, I listened to them. And we built this thing and opened it, I believe, right before BizCon in 2017, if I recall. And, the reaction that we saw on people's faces when they came through the door, to me, was kind of validation that the concept was valid, right? That what we've done here was at a different level and a different scale than most other cannabis shops were at the time. And that we were on the right track to kind of creating that destination and that springboard for not only our brand, but, other brands that we have in the store.
So let's talk about that. Like, first off, the phrase cannabis superstore. And then the Planet Hollywood retail experience as kind of an attraction in itself and a destination in itself. But then here in Vegas, you have like the Planet 13 complex, it feels like, which is like a wraparound attraction. So can you speak a little bit to the experience here and the evolution of that?
Yes. Part of it is just due to the nature of this building. I mean, look at it. It's massive. We have 130,000 square feet of, under roof space to work with. So we had to take the whole building, right? We're not the landlord's not going to lease us the front to do a superstore while he has a carpet barn running out of the back, right? So we've got to utilize the space that we have. We have a very unique location. The regulations here don't allow us to be on the strip. So we were one of the closest dispensaries to the strip. And, that plus the space allows us to create this concept, right? This destination where someone can come, they can get, pain medication for their hangover. They can get a tattoo. They can see how the gummies are made. They can pick up some gummies for the evening, some cannabis. They can learn about cannabis. They can taste the cannabis over in the lounge before they go buy it. And it really just provides a full closed loop of everything someone would want to participate in on their, journey, their experience to Las Vegas to experience cannabis.
Awesome. Just to add to that too, it's people are here, for a reason, right? They're here to be entertained. And so if we were just an ordinary dispensary, it's, it's great because you use cannabis in all sorts of circumstances, but this is a place where people are looking for experience. They're looking for the lights. They're looking for the over the topness. And I think that, you can't you can't be like a dispensary like when you're in Vegas. Like you have to bring Vegas to every aspect of your life.
Right. And from a data perspective, it's like you have the cannabis consumer audience, which I always associate as a travel guy with resident spend, essentially. And then you have the visitor spend, which what a unique opportunity. And you guys are in Las Vegas, right? When we talk tourism-based economies, you don't get much bigger and more interesting than, and I would add, I totally agree with you, that whole sensory layer.
Yeah.
Like the sphere, like all these different, it's almost like human ingenuity comes alive here. And cannabis is quite the complement.
Well, and just to add to that, Brian, like one of the interesting bits too is, people come here from Texas.
Right.
And so they actually come here, experience, the lifestyle.
Right.
And then they take that home with them. And so when they take that home, it's like, not just a hat or a t-shirt, although we love selling hats and t-shirts, but we want to sell them those memories so that, essentially that helps to kind of further the entire industry.
Right.
Because you have folks that are coming from, non-legal states, from Mississippi or Indiana, and they're taking that back and essentially like helping to influence kind of the zeitgeist on like how people see it. And when they see that it's not about kind of, this illicit kind of dark, opportunity, like experience. It's fun and it's exciting and interesting. It kind of helps everybody.
Yeah. And you're literally tapping in on what makes the cannabis travel audience different than the cannabis consumer audience is they consume experiences. 24% of the 72 million Americans that are part of the cannabis travel audience choose destinations based on accessing cannabis experiences, right? And 24% do not consider themselves or self-identify as cannabis consumers, which I find fascinating. Do you guys see that in your retail shop? People that just come in, soak up the moment, take a selfie, maybe snap some photos of t-shirts, products, or is there always a transaction had from the traffic you get?
I mean, we'd prefer there be a transaction had,
of course,
obviously, but no, the conversion rate's definitely not 100%. And you'll see groups come in,
right?
And a lot of times there may be a group of folks who are here on a trip or a bridal shower, or a wedding, or a bachelor party. Maybe a couple of the guys smoke and a couple of them don't, right?
Yep.
And so that aids to that mix of the type of folks that come here and what they're looking to experience. So we have the restaurant up front. Again, we have the gift shop, we have the entertainment. So if you're not even a consumer, maybe you get curious enough about cannabis when you come here to try something, pick something up, maybe, and you get to see how it's made. It lowers the barrier of entry. It takes some of that mystique or that fear away. And that's what this is about, normalizing and elevating the access to cannabis.
Well, I think you had mentioned it to me at one point. You're like, nobody comes in here alone.
Right.
Or if they do, I don't see them. Right.
They're usually the drive-through.
Somebody always comes in with a friend, and it's like, even if you're kind of just like just hanging on and just kind of like while that's happening, it's not something that, that people would tend to come here alone. And it's meant to be kind of, shared. And I think you're right. It does lower that stigma to say like, well, if I come here and I can see that this is like really kind of like a fun experience, like, I don't know, like maybe I'll try it.
Right. When it comes to a marketing strategy, Bryant, how do you approach that? Because I got in a Planet 13 taxi coming here that was branded Planet 13, right? So there's this capability that you have as an attraction that's cannabis centric, but you have other things wrapped within this Planet 13 complex.
Yeah.
So talk about the marketing toolkit and how you leverage those differentiators.
I mean, that's a great question. I think that, first off, Vegas marketing is different than marketing anywhere else in probably the globe, right? The taxis that you're talking about, that might not work in like Indianapolis. But it is Vegas, and it's actually been a really kind of like key part of the strategy from the get-go.
Right.
Is you just the minute that you kind of land at the airport, you see a Planet 13 cab, and your first stop is here, and most likely your cabbie will direct you here. So that's a bedrock of what we do. What we've been developing though is we've been developing ways to kind of build out excitement and experience around things like product drops. Around, I'm not sure if you saw the Khalifa Kush, Wiz Khalifa's brand here in the dispensary, but that's a whole kind of piece in and of itself, which also ties to marketing, but also is in and of itself an amazing product as hopefully you'll be able to kind of vouch for. And then the third piece that we've done is we've created what we call Planet 13 Lifestyle, which essentially is a way for us to kind of sell that merchandise and that reminder of the Planet 13 experience. So it does two things. Like, first off, it is that memory that you can kind of come back to when you're put that hat on. If you're living in Chicago, you can remember your time in Vegas. But then also, and we all understand the complexity of a lot of the advertising and marketing rules. It allows us to kind of talk about Planet 13 in kind of more mainstream channels. Yeah. Right. You can advertise a hat or a t-shirt or a lifestyle or a product like that anywhere. You can, through TV, radio, that sort of thing, even though you're highly restricted on the cannabis side. You can't really do any of that, but it allows us to raise awareness of Planet 13 in a really unique and different way.
Awesome. So let's talk real quick about 2025. Like, the year's coming up, right? People are thinking about the roadmaps ahead for the next 1 to 3 years. What would you guys like to see happen in 2025? Is there any big goals or milestones or ways you want to see Planet 13 evolve?
It's funny you say that. We literally just walked out of a meeting talking about our 2025 roadmap. To me, like, at my heart, the biggest thing we need is some relief at the federal level. We need some tax help. We need some federal movement this year. It's been pretty abysmal, the love that we've received the last little bit here, and the industry is suffering. And you see it in every state. It is not an easy road to hoe with the current climate that we have to deal with. So hopefully that changes. That's my biggest shining light for 2025. And then being on the cultivation side, we're doing a lot of breeding ourselves. So 2025 is going to be a year of new releases, new hardware, new marketing techniques, new lifestyle initiatives, new partnerships. And to me, that's the big focus of 2025.
It makes me think of, like, so I work with a lot of destinations, many of which are kind of the more rural craft kind of, where cannabis tourism is vital to the next evolution of their economy. And it's another way that Vegas is so unique, because if people come here for these signature iconic experiences, but now you're talking about doing some really sophisticated breeding and cultivars, and that indoor commands a price, right? And there's a craft there. So do you guys have house brand? Are you going to be an evangelist for the craft of indoor with any house brands to educate the public about quality strains, terpene profiles, just kind of advocate for the education?
I would say we are very much, have been, and will continue to be so. Myself, I'm a cannabis consumer. I've been cultivating cannabis for many, many, many years. And I fully, appreciate the art and science and technique that goes into it, and the difficulty, as you said, to operate at scale in a regulated environment, and being able to present to everybody who comes to this destination what cannabis can be and should be from, like, an elevated manufacturing form. That's why we have the visible window there, so people can see how these things are made. It takes the mystery out of it. And through our cultivation practices, while they're not visible here, we try and elevate that and hold every decision to the highest standard, so that when someone does come here and experience cannabis, they're experiencing it at the highest level in relation to the building and the experiences that we have. The product itself is an experience. We need to make sure that one starts right, or the rest of this isn't worth it.
What I would just add is, we have some phenomenal house brands, and a lot of it, what fuels and powers that is the genetics and everything that Chris is doing. But the brands themselves are meant to represent, like, extremely high quality experience, high quality products. The trendy line that we have is phenomenal. And even if it's, the brand itself is what really builds it is that product quality. So you'll see it with a lot of folks, like, if the brand, if they focus on the brand more than they focus on kind of the quality of the product, and that's just not how we build the brands here. Yeah.
And the power of tourism, man. It's like, people want to do local storytelling, right? When I work with destination marketing organizations, it's, what's our story? Like, who are our ambassadors? What's our craft? And how are we different from the next city or the next town or the next slope? And drawing that out is part of the marketing mix. So, you guys are kind of the platform in Vegas in a lot of ways for that cannabis experience. So, a case is to be made that Planet 13 is having a strong hand in evolving the brand of Las Vegas when it comes to the cannabis experience. And the partnerships available for the travel economy here are insane. Like, so beyond taxis, what other partnerships are on your radar where that is a differentiator because you're an attraction in Las Vegas?
Well, I mean, I think one of the biggest is the fact that, a lot of celebrities, musicians either live here or are here a lot.
Right.
And so those partnerships, like the Wiz Khalifa one I mentioned,
so
we're just dropping a collaboration with Red Farron, who's a country artist.
Yep.
And we've had partnerships with some UFC fighters as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that is, a lot of that's like these are partnerships which reflect the kind of the over the topness of Las Vegas, but then they also kind of connect you to kind of that, to that experience tourism, right? Like it's like if I can come here and kind of smoke the same weed that Wiz smokes, like I don't know, like that sounds like pretty fun because I can't do that in Michigan,
right?
I can't do it in other states.
I mean, and the way that I need to educate the travel industry about this trend is like the cannabis travel trend's anchored in wellness, 1 foot in medical tourism, 1 foot in leisure, and every destination is a little bit unique. But when it comes to that leisure, experience-driven, sensory-rich, innovative frontier, I mean, Vegas has all the bells and whistles to play. And I can't help but think about the data behind all of it. You're selling cannabinoids of all kinds, but you're also selling an entheogenic product with microdosing being used in the mainstream economy. Do you guys, from a data perspective with tourism, do you ever like look at certain specific data sets different from resident to visitor strategies in general, from marketing to merchandising?
From operations all the way up to marketing, but it's being so tourist centric and still being able to serve your local customers and keep them happy is a job in and of itself. So we've got a lot of what you'd say membership programs. We have an app, we have loyalty points, we have different reward levels based on, whether you're a local or how much you spend, this, that, and the other. So there's a lot of creativity that goes into that. You're right. There's a lot of data driven decisions and analyzing patterns and purchasing trends that allow us to try and facilitate what people want in both respects without crossing streams, so to speak. Right. And big lift on Brian's part, but operationally we do our best to service both clients.
Well, so.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add to that too, I think that one of the most interesting bits that we see from a data perspective is you do get a lot of either visitors to the Planet 13 lifestyle website who are not in Vegas.
Right.
They're from Texas.
Yep.
They're from Florida. Yep. And so essentially like they're coming, they've heard about Planet 13, they're curious about Planet 13, but they're all over. And so that's the interesting piece of the data is that if you look at kind of like the tourist data for who comes to Vegas, that reflects who comes to Planet 13.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about the logo, if you don't mind, the high notes. What Planet 13, is there something that when this was created that it represents? Or?
Yeah, it's a Larry story again, but I'll tell it for him since he's not here. He does a much better job than I do, but I'll substitute. When we were starting this, again, we were medical. So I was working on designing the first dispensary and the grows. And I came up with the name Medizin. And Larry used to own a print shop, and he's very much into graphic design and logos and art. So he took the name and he went into the lab and he came back with the Medizin logo. And the Medizin logo is an M that kind of looks like this 3 with a line underneath it.
Okay.
And if you turn it sideways, it's a 13. But if you turn it this way, it's an M.
Okay.
And our first business cards were that M turning into a 13 because we kind of knew where we were going, right?
Yeah.
But rec wasn't here yet. So that was the start of it. And then we started thinking about, okay, we're going rec. We want to be big. What's big? I know this is going to sound pretty simple, but planets are big, right?
Yep, of course.
And Larry, when he was growing up, 13 was kind of like a code for marijuana, back in the days. And so Planet 13 was born.
Awesome.
And it kind of fits into the Medizin logo, and Medizin is our house flower. So that was the general genesis. And now we've got this sweet crescent logo.
Oh man. Yeah. So you guys got the Las Vegas like attraction style Planet 13.
And it gets better. The entire first dispensary was designed and built from the Las Vegas Convention Center artwork. So if you go to the Convention Center Authority, they have all this art of old Vegas.
Yeah.
Larry's art department clipped all the most famous things you'll remember every single one of them when you walk through there, colorized them, and built the whole wallpaper for the place.
Do they know that? Does the tourism authority know that you guys did that?
Oh yeah, they have that. Well, whether somebody over there does, but we've got the images. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. That might be a good story to share with them at some point. So there's some other markets, right? Are you guys only looking at tourism-based economies, or where are you looking to grow from here?
I mean, superstores are very much focused in tourism-based locations because that's where they work at, but we don't just have superstores. We have a lot of neighborhood stores. We have a lot of regular cannabis dispensaries in Florida and Illinois, and looking to expand, all across the country. But where a destination entertainment, superstore model fits, we definitely are looking at that as the model.
The only thing I would add is, you're exactly right, Chris, is that, we're in Florida. So Florida is like a medical market, right?
Yes.
And so there's a lot that, even though it is a tourism location and, it's not recreational. So like our intent is to kind of bring a bit of the spirit of Planet 13 there. Yeah. So that you'll see a lot of the same kind of like interesting murals, or, the bright colors and that, and the merch that really kind of reflects the experience here in Vegas, even if you're in a medical market, right? Our intent is that you kind of feel like you get a little bit of the mothership. Yeah. When you're even when you're in Chicago, or you're in, in Florida. We also have a superstore in Orange County, which I'm not sure if you've been to, but it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's Santa Ana. Absolutely. So as you curate the Planet 13 experience, from the attraction style to the shops, as you go into the medical market of Florida, when I educate, I talk about how cannabis is a travel trend anchored in well-being and wellness. And now I'm imagining this amazing leisure product here in Vegas. Now you have kind of that narrative where you have to accommodate a medical market in Florida. I'd be curious of what that looks like to kind of accommodate that very therapeutic wellness approach that strikes the balance, that educates about, the way cannabis works with the endocannabinoid system to help balance. And do you think there's a world where it's not just medical or super rich sensory, but cannabis can find its footing kind of in the middle somewhere and create a new type of conversation when it comes to wellness travel?
I call that the cannabis lifestyle, right?
You do.
Or Planet 13 lifestyle.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this a little bit earlier, but people have things in their life that are important to them. They have events, they have experiences, they have trips, they have sports they like. And a lot of people use cannabis in conjunction with those things, whether it be to enhance them from an entertainment perspective, or relieve them from the pain of the activity, or the stress of the activity, or to create focus during the activity. Yeah. So while there is this medical and recreational market, I see them very much blended. And that's part of the normalization of cannabis that we are providing here, is that whether or not you're smoking it to go to bed, smoking it for cancer, or smoking it to watch a good movie, it's all beneficial to you the same way as glasses are, or a walking stick, or, whatever. It's part of people's lives, and we need to make that connection.
And I think that's like, it's interesting, because I think that Florida is a really interesting market for that, because it's a tourist destination as well. Right. And, I don't need to tell you or anybody else the stats in terms of like the number one use for cannabis besides, relaxation is, sleep and, like anti-stress and that sort of thing. Yeah. And so like, but nobody wants to feel sick. True. You know what I mean? No one wants to feel like there's something wrong. And so like, if anything, I think the fact that like when you go to Planet 13 in Florida, like the fact that you feel like it's a fun, uplifting experience is awesome. That way you're feeling like, to your point, it's like normalized a bit. It's like, I'm not doing this because I got to go to the doctor and they give it to me in a prescription, bottle and that sort of thing. But this is like, it's medicine, but it can also be fun. Yeah.
So let's do a little bit deeper into partnerships, because in the research that I've been doing around the cannabis travel audience since 2020, there's one data set that really speaks to the connective thread from cannabis to arts and culture, culinary, and nature are the kind of the three categories we continue to measure. And the cannabis travel audience is looking at cannabis as a pairing mechanism, just like wine is with food, but cannabis is paired with activities and experiences. And this is in California, many of the destinations talk about this within the context of effect pairing. And I believe that this trend can really differentiate. I know you guys have done some really cool partnerships with, I believe, the Sphere and a few others. Can you share a little bit about how you've approached partnerships and how those have gone and what you've learned, and maybe some tips for people watching of what you'd recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, for us, I think, partnerships is like really finding those like relevant audiences, and then what are they interested in? Right. So like, I think UFC fighters is a partnership we've done, and we know that subculture is interested in cannabis, and so it's a natural kind of like fit together.
Right.
The effect pairing is really interesting. I think that's an area that, like frankly, that we think is a huge opportunity.
Right.
We were just talking the other day. We're like, hey, maybe we should like think about like disc golf. Because
great pairing.
Yeah, you're right. Like when
lots of stoners love disc golf.
Well, I've never, played disc golf like without a beer in my hand or a joint in my hand, right? But like it's but it is one of those it's one of those effect pairing partnerships where you're looking for what are the things that I like to do on the regular.
Yep.
Art, music, sports, and then how do we find the right overlap with cannabis?
Yep.
Because to be frank, you don't want to. Like a terrible partnership is one where there's no cannabis connection, right? Because it's essentially like why it doesn't make sense. And one of the things we also know is that, especially with subcultures, if you're inauthentic about that partnership, they sniff that out really fast, right? And so if you're going to do a partnership, between Planet 13 and like say a musician, it has to be real, and we have to be real on our end.
Yep.
And they have to kind of partner with it, very, very tightly. So, and I think that, and thus far we've had some like great partners. I mean, Wiz Khalifa is like a really fantastic partner.
Yep.
Mike Tyson as well. We did some work with him before. Great partner.
Awesome.
And one of the reasons Wiz is such a great partner is he knows cannabis, he consumes cannabis, and his brand is based on actually producing good cannabis genetics and proliferating that, and allowing people to experience what he considers to be great cannabis. And we're proud to be a part of that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's where like that great cannabis, the variety of genetics, and starting to drill down on what cannabis cultivars as the data gets more mature is the right precursor to this setting or this activity. Like that's when it's going to get really fun, when there's some common knowledge about limonene and how much THC is driving that, and what is the cannabinoid or the cannabinoid profile, and based on your experience level, what's the recommendation? And hopefully we start hitting that mark where, I mean, in tourism, I see a lot where the negative side of it, if people have a 20 milligram gummy or 210s, and then they cancel their dinner reservations because they're in their room, right? And then the destination is trying to figure out how to minimize those impacts, because that's lost revenue for the destination, right? So
I think we've all been there.
Yeah. Well, where can people find out more about you both and Planet 13?
On the website, planet13.com for
Awesome.
sure. Yeah, that's a good place to start. That'll link you to a lot of our, sub-sites, all of our menus, and all of our bios.
Cool. Chris, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And how about you, Brian? Any last words?
No, only that, if you haven't experienced it, you got to get to Vegas. I'm telling you what, it is something that you'll never forget, and bring a friend.
Great. Awesome. This is the Cannabis Tourism Panel for Beard Bros Travel, Beard Bros Media. Thanks for watching.